Hi, I'm Dick Yates with Salem Harvest, an all-volunteer gleaning organization in Salem, Oregon. The purpose of this video is to introduce you to the website and information management system that we have developed over the last 3 years. We are pretty excited about how it has worked out and want to make it available to similar organizations. Salem Harvest began when a small group of neighbors, all living within a couple of blocks of each other, got together to rescue unpicked fruit that we saw in our neighborhood. Now, Salem is located in the middle of the Willamette Valley, one of the most productive agricultural areas in the country, and Salem is small enough that the farms are close by. But, somewhat paradoxically, the area also has a high incidence of food insecurity. This large supply and demand meant that we grew very quickly as farm crops were donated and volunteers signed up to help. With food to glean and volunteers to pick, the essential task became one of managing the information. How would growers tell us about crops? How would volunteers tell us they want to help? How would we get information about harvest to the volunteers? How would we keep track of what there was to do and what we had already done? These questions were all about managing information among widely separated groups of people. We found that the internet is an ideal tool for this task, so we developed Salem Harvest website that connects up all that information for everyone involved. All gleaning organizations work with limited resources. What I hope you can see as we take a tour through the site is that at every point in the design, the focus is on efficiency by making the information management processes as automatic as possible. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at the website, starting from the perspective of a crop owner and a volunteer, and then moving behind the scenes to see how we use this tool to fulfill our mission. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but you can retrace every step of it later on the demonstration website. This site is a fictitious one called Willamette Gleaners that we use to show the features and processes that are available. As we go through these pages, keep in mind that this demonstration site has only a limited amount of information in the database. It's just to show how everything works. Crop owners can fill out a simple form with information about the crop itself and how to contact the owner. The information is inserted automatically into the database, and an email is sent to the harvest director. Here we can see the crop information page. Notice that the address has been used to get an aerial view of the crop. This is useful for planning large harvests where, for instance, parking space can be a problem. Meanwhile, volunteers register online by going to this page. They fill in the form with contact information and some preferences. There is a link to the terms of participation that they are agreeing to. After saving the form, they are automatically sent an email with more information and links to help them get oriented. One of those links goes to the volunteers page. Here, volunteers will find links to complete information about how to participate, a page to update their contact information, a link to resend the email about harvests that they have already signed up for, a link to be sent an email with their complete attendance history, and a page to review the terms of participation. All of these functions are entirely automatic. Once a volunteer is registered, he or she can sign up for harvests. These are posted on the Harvests page. They can review brief descriptions of the harvests that are open and then sign up. Signing up sends them to a page with details about the harvest, including turn-by-turn driving directions from their house to the harvest. It also triggers an email with details about the harvest. That email has a link that lets them cancel their roster spot if it turns out that they cannot attend. If a roster is full, it may still show up on the harvests page with the option to get on a waiting list. After confirming that they want to be on the waiting list, They can check their position on the list at any time. If someone cancels their roster slot, then the person at the top of the waiting list is promoted to the roster and is sent an email notifying them of this. When the day of the harvest arrives, they show up and are checked off on the roster. Notice that all of these steps, from crop and volunteer registration through harvest sign-up and waiting list and rosters, until arriving at the harvest, are automatic and require no staff time. So what does staff have to do? Of course, we have to plan with the crop owner and decide when the harvest will be and how many pickers are needed. But once staff posts a harvest, the next step is simply to print out the roster. For that, we go behind the public pages. The central page for planning is the season planner. It shows all the harvests and their planning status. It has two views, a list view and a calendar view. As you move the mouse over harvests, details appear about each one on the right side. We can see information about the crop, the harvest, the leader, and the history. There are also links to pages for viewing or updating information about the crop and the harvest. When it is time for a harvest, the roster page is the next stop. This shows all of the information that is needed at the harvest and the complete roster that has been compiled automatically from the online sign-ups. The roster shows how many previous harvests each person has attended. There are several options available for printing the roster depending on which particular forms are needed. At the harvest leader or an assistant marks off attendance on the paper copy. And after the harvest, this information is entered into the database. There are utilities for doing this, so that even a large harvest of, say, 150 pickers can be entered in just a few minutes. Now, going back to the season planner, there are links for sending a survey to the crop owner with all the information automatically inserted, and for printing a pre-formatted donation receipt and even an addressed envelope. So that's the whole cycle of a harvest. What information do we end up with? Well, all that has happened is safely stored in the database. You can see the contents of these database tables of crops, volunteers, and harvests. There is also a page for generating custom reports that can pull out and combine information from any of the database tables. That could be as simple as the total pounds harvested by type of crop, or as complicated as the average distance that volunteers traveled to get to harvests. This information is useful for future planning, for promoting the organization, and for substantiating grant requests. What I want to emphasize the most is how efficient this system has been for us. At Salem Harvest in 2012, with a budget of about $7,000 and a 7-member all-volunteer board, we harvested more than 160,000 pounds of food in our 5-month season. Another benefit is that it allows a very rapid response time because so much is automated. A couple of years ago, a farmer called us about a few acres of green beans that were going to be plowed under. In 2 days, we had 180 people in the field and picked several tons for the food bank. While that was one of our largest harvests, about half of them involve fewer than 5 volunteers and take place in urban backyards, so the system scales quite well depending on the organization's needs and setting. This winter, since, unlike those of you in sunny California, we have an off-season, we began thinking about how other organizations could use this system. We had heard of groups using methods like telephone trees and email notices that were very labor-intensive. Then, at the start of this year, we had an opportunity to work with the folks at GleanSlow, who were looking for a way to manage their information. GleanSlow consists basically of 2 employees of the Food Coalition of San Luis Obispo County, plus volunteers. We modified and installed a complete independent website based on the Salem Harvest model. That website has been in operation for several months now, and they have completed dozens of harvests and picked around 70,000 pounds through May of this year. Based on that experience, the next step was to develop a site that any number of gleaning organizations could use on a subscription basis. This is called GleanWeb. The pages I have been showing you are all from the demonstration site on GleanWeb. Each organization gets a fully functioning virtual website. Briefly, the way this works is that all the subscribing organizations' sites run on the same web pages, but the customized text and the contents of the organization's designated database tables are kept completely separate and secure. GleanWeb will be available soon as a yearly subscription. I hope you will look around at the web pages and get in touch about any questions that you have. Salem Harvest's goal is to rescue food in order to reduce hunger, and we want to help out other groups that are also working toward that goal. Thank you.